Hey, what is going on, everyone? I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for clicking on this video here. Guys, if you're interested in picking up some of the best JDM, BFS, swim bait tackle out there on the market, guys, we've got a lot of it in stock on the website, lakeprotackle.com. Anyway, guys, this video here is going to be talking about a couple of my favorite ways to rig up the Geecrack Bellows Gill Swimmers. These things are super awesome in the post spawn all year round, imitating a bluegill profile. It's got a much taller body, much longer body, and it has a little kicking appendage at the end, which already enhances the really great action from the Bellows Gills overall. So in this video, again, we're going to be going over my favorite ways to rig them up. We're going to rig them up, talk about my favorite reels to fish, the favorite line, the rods, the whole rundown. So stay tuned here. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the Bellows Gill Swimmers, guys. For $9.49, you're gonna get 5 baits, and it has this case here. It's got a soft plastic or a plastic piece to go on top of the case, so they're not moving around. The tail still stays straight. If you want to de-rig them, you can use them over and over again, but you can see right here, this guy is super sweet. It's got that full bluegill pattern, same as the Bellows Gill, just has the little kicker tail at the back. Now, you would be surprised. The first time I looked at this, I thought it was going to have a huge, thick plastic piece running down. I didn't know how my hooks were going to get through the bait, but there is a slot in the top and on the bottom of this bait to allow good hook penetration with a EWG hook, with a jig head, with a swim jig, or a chatterbait. Now, we've got a couple different colors. We don't have all the colors right now, but the one I picked out for this video here, this one here, I believe is called the Golden Flash Gill. It's going to have a nice little green pumpkinish top with a tan, almost like Moebi underbelly here. It's got black flake, red flake, looks really good, a great bluegill color overall. It can imitate shad, it can imitate a lot of different things down there as you're reeling it along while you're fishing. So one of my favorite ways to fish this bait, first and foremost, is plain. You know, I will stick a weighted EWG hook on there. I can stick this on a Texas rig EWG, fish it a lot of different ways depending on how weedless I need this bait to get. Now, for the rigging purposes of this video, we're going to start with the swim jig. This one right here is one of my favorite swim jigs of all time. This is the V&M Pacemaker, the Pulse swim jig. This is a 3/8 ounce jig. They also make a half and I believe a 3/4. For $5.29, guys, you're getting an excellent hook. You're getting an excellent jig head shape. Has a pretty good weed guard. It's not super stout out of the package. One of my favorites. Good length on it, and they make a wide variety of colors. The skirt is a little bit thicker, but we're going to show you some little hacks here to make this all streamlined for you. But guys, rigging is extremely simple. You're going to take your bait, you're going to take your hook, and you're going to thread it on there. You know, I like to do the method where I kind of measure it out on the hook, kind of see exactly where it needs to go. And one of the keys with rigging these Bellows Gills up is making sure you go straight down into the plastic, making sure you're not going off center. So I'm going to look at this bait here. I'm going to try to keep it as straight as I possibly can, running it down the length of this. And we're going to see how well I do it. I haven't rigged one of these up on a jig in a while, but we're going to just run straight down, working slowly, making sure we get it right the first time. We don't want to mess up our plastic. And another great thing about this V&M jig is the hook isn't extremely stout. It leaves room, leaves enough hook penetration to where you don't have to set the hook extremely hard. And that kind of plays into how I like to fish with my rods and reel choices. So there we go. I got this all rigged up. Tell me that doesn't look good, guys. Right here, look at that bad boy. So you're gonna obviously tell it is a much bigger profile than a normal swim jig. Typically people will put either a Fat Impact Kitech or even like a Speed Cross, something very slender. This opens up the profile quite a bit. Let me see if I can find a pair of scissors, and we're gonna show you how to doctor this up here. All right, so I got my shears here. I got my little scissors. You can, you can pluck the skirts off by hand if you want. But one of my go-to tips for these right here is I'm going to take this lure. I'm going to flip it upside down, hold it by the tail, and watch all those skirts flip over. Now, I'm only going to grab the skirts that are on the top, or I'm going to grab the ones on the bottom and grab the ones on the top, kind of separate them out. So I'm going to take my finger, run it through the skirt there, and you can kind of tip it back over, back to parallel, and kind of sort them out this way as well. So what I'm doing is separating the skirts coming out from the top from the bottom. And what this is going to do is I'm going to trim some of these up here to eliminate some of the bulk from the skirt. And what this does is it makes it a little more streamlined. You get a little bit more bang for your buck out of the bait, because if you do make this too bulky, it just kind of weighs down the presentation. I feel like it's not quite as effective. So I now have all the top skirts in one hand, and I'm letting all the other ones flow down the bait. And you can see here that those skirts run pretty far down. They don't quite interfere with that tail, but to me, it's a little bit too close. I'm not sure if you can see that there, but I'm going to hold it up to the camera. You can see right there, those skirts are running down pretty low. So what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to take the scissors or shears, whatever you have, I'm going to cut them right where the hook ends on this bait. So I'm going to cut them up all the way right here. What that's going to do, again, it's going to eliminate a lot of the bulk on the bait. It's going to make your bait look a lot more natural in the water, and you're going to get a little bit more movement out of your top skirts. So there we go. Took out a little bulk from the bottom there, and already I know, because I've done this plenty of times, I know that these top skirts now are going to have a much heightened action in the water as you're swimming this along. Straight retrieves work great with the swim jig, especially if you're near reeds or you're around lily pads, even open water, guys. Just a straight retrieve. This tail is going to kick very subtly. The skirt's going to be pulsing. Overall, the design of this jig, I absolutely love it for skipping around docks and stuff as well. So, guys, that is my #1 tip for the swim jig with this Bellows Gill Swimmer. Guys, it looks great. Straight out of the package, you know, looks good. Adding that little hack there, trimming up some of that bottom skirt, definitely gives it a much better profile and look. So, next up is going to be the ChatterBait. The one I have here is the ChatterBait Mini Max by Z-Man. This is a bluegill pattern, 3/8 ounce. It's going to have a gold blade on it, which I really like with this golden flash color on the Bellows Gill Swimmers. And if you didn't know, guys, we have demo product on the website. So anything that I'm using in photos on the social media, Instagram and Facebook, stuff like this, rigging videos on the YouTube channel here, you can go buy these exact baits. The package is going to be the ChatterBait, the swim jig, and these Bellows Gill Swimmers, all in one package for you, so you can buy them pre-rigged up and ready to go. So guys, the Mini Max is going to have a little bit shorter, stouter hook, which is awesome. You don't need to do much modification to the skirt on this one. And this one, guys, very simply, I'm just going to rig it up just like I would with any other bait. So I'm going to go straight in the middle, go down just a little bit, pop it out, push it up, and would you look at that. So what this is going to do, the blade is going to add just a little bit of extra action, and I actually really messed this one up in terms of rigging it. Came out really wonky on one side. There we go. Sometimes it's hard to see. There we go. That one came out right. Sometimes it's really hard to see, but right there, guys, what you can do, you can also trim up some of the skirt if you want. I think the ChatterBait, having that little extra skirt definitely benefits from that, just because that blade is pulsing. And you will see that the hook doesn't poke out as much as it did on the swim jig, just because it is a little bit stouter hook on here. You can barely see that hook there, but don't worry. Like I said, there is a chamber here, so when they do bite down on it, they are going to get hooked. Another hack you can do, take some pliers, bend that hook point slightly up. Again, it's a chatterbait, so it's going to roll through hard cover, your laydowns, your trees and stuff like that very, very easily. So don't worry about the hookup ratio on that. It is going to be fine. And right there, totally streamlined, as natural as I can really present one of these Bellows Gill Swimmers without just a plain Texas rig or a weighted keeled swimbait hook. So I am going to... All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some of the rods, reels, line that I like to throw this on. Typically, I'm going to be throwing either one of these patterns on the exact same setup. Typically, I'm going to be using 14 to 15 pound line. One of my favorites, Seaguar Invisex. For the rods that I like to use, I like to have a little bit stouter line. Typically with Invisex, if I am using a little bit more heavy rod, let's say a true medium heavy fast rod, I will go with a little bit softer line, such as the Samurai, a Brazex, or Tatsu. So if you're using a little bit more limber rod, like a moderate rod that has a little more bend in it, go with a little bit harder line. And you can also up the line test. So if you're using a very limber rod, maybe go up to 17 pounds, 16, 17, 18 pound test. And that's just kind of how I work that out. But moving on to the reels, guys. Actually, let's start with the rods. The rods are a little bit more important, in my opinion, when it comes to fishing these techniques. There's really two trains of thought here. If you're fishing around, and it's all dependent on the cover and structure that you're fishing, right? So typically I'm fishing around laydowns, I'm fishing around concrete blocks, I'm fishing around big rock piles and stuff like that, maybe even brush piles offshore. With these specific target-based applications, I'm going to be using a little bit shorter rod than maybe if I'm around vegetation, right? So first off is going to be the Megabass Deimos. This one right here is an F5 power, so it's going to be a medium heavy, moderate fast rod. It's going to still have a pretty fast tip, but the bend goes pretty deep into the rod, about halfway down. Great for chatterbait, spinnerbait, swim jigs, and that's kind of what they designed this rod to be exactly for. It is a 7'2" rod, again an F5 power, rated for 3/8 to 1 ounce on it. So you know, perfect right at that 3/8. You've got the swim jig, you got the chatterbait, you add on a little extra weight for the swimmer, and it's a perfect match. I love the little bit shorter or longer handle on the Deimos. No, sorry, shorter handle, excuse me. Shorter handle on the Deimos compared to something like the Javelin or some of the other P5s, right? So it's a little bit shorter, a little more versatile. If I'm making target casts to specific stumps, something like that, I can get a quick hook set. I don't have to let it load, get into my armpit, sit there, and then I can set. So having that little shorter butt end is beneficial. Typically, I'm a guy that likes a little bit longer butt end, specifically on something like this. This is the NRX Plus. This is the 843, and this is the MBR. So this is the Mag Bass version. So it's going to have a full cork handle, little bit longer, just a hair, not much longer. This thing is the epitome of just kind of bass geekdom, guys. You know, the rod extremely, extremely light. Both rods are extremely light. NRX Plus is just slightly lighter in my opinion. Maybe a little more balanced, I would say, just because the full cork. I like the MBR series for the full cork. It allows me to balance my reels a lot easier, especially if I'm making a longer cast. I'm not working to pull that rod up. That rod really is balanced and it feels good in my hand. So of course, recoil guides on this NRX Plus. Absolutely love the design of these. This one here is going to be a 7-foot rod. So especially if I'm uptight, personal, making no more than like a 20-yard cast or 20-yard flip, guys, this is going to be my go-to. If I'm using the swim jig, I'm probably going to favor this NRX Plus over the chatterbait. If I'm throwing the chatterbait and making a little bit longer casts, I want a little bit longer rods. So 7'2" on the Deimos. You can even throw in the Javelin in there, which is a 7'5", 5 power, very similar in taper and power to that Deimos. And when it comes to reels, guys, I'm typically staying with a 7-speed or 8-speed reel. With the chatterbait, I might go down to a 6-speed if I really, really need to slow myself down. But again, a 7-speed or an 8-speed is going to be my go-to. So Starting off with kind of like the budget reels that I like to use, around $200 to $250, guys. The Tatula SVTW 103. This thing is badass. It's got the SV spool. It's got the T-wing system. Absolutely love this one. Daiwa's got some cool reels coming out that I can't quite talk about yet, but I am excited to show you those coming around ICAST in July. So we will be talking about those, but for now, my top choice from the budget lineup from Daiwa is going to be the 103. This guy right here has great winching power, stays smooth with the SV system. I can easily skip under docks, skip around, flip and pitch around whatever I want. Next up is going to be the Corrado 150 MGL. Packing on enough line is one of the biggest things, biggest benefits when it comes to fishing all the time. Personally, I don't switch out line like I used to when I was tournament fishing. Now I'm just fishing for fun. I can keep a lot of line on here. It stays pretty fresh throughout the lifespan of it. If I do, happen to bird's nest or something, and I have to cut like half the spool out, I still have quite a bit of line on the spool there. So holding 14, 15-pound line, I can get a whole ton of line on there. Don't have to worry about it. I absolutely, again, love the 7-speed, which is the HG, or the 8-speed, which is XG. Moving on to the really nice stuff here. Metanium would be on the list here. However, I feel that the Bantam balances and feels much more rigid than the Metanium. It's just a personal preference. I know the Metanium is like 2 ounces lighter than the Bantam. However, when it comes to balancing my rods and reels on specific techniques, the Bantam has been there for me. I absolutely love it. My Bantam puts in absolute work with chatterbaits on the daily, especially with these techniques right here with the Bellows Gill. So having the Bantam feels solid, uses the core solid body, uses SVS Infinity, has MGL 3 spool, which is super awesome. Again, 150 size. All the great things I can say about Corrado, just in a much more durable, it feels like, package. So there's Bantam, and top of the line, creme de la creme, from the Steez lineup, the SVTW right here. This thing is extremely light. Take all the things I said about Bantam, lighten it up by like 2.5 ounces. You've got Steez right here. I don't need to say much on this, because if you know, you know. And if you're looking to just create the most banger combo out there, guys, my opinion would probably be the Deimos, the just sheer lightness and amazingness of the P5 lineup with that Daiwa Steez. Guys, that is the combo, top combo I would go with. But anyway, if you have any questions, definitely hit me up in the comments. And if you want to buy these baits right here, straight from the website, type in demo, DEMO. It should pop up there very quickly. We've got a whole collection page on all the cool stuff you can get. We've got Calcuttas up there. We got SLX 70. We got some rods as well. And definitely check out my buddy, Scales and Tills Media, Adrian Dean, over with this guy right here. We've got 6 left. Each one is going to ship with a Lake Pro Tackle koozie for the last 6 that we have in stock. And these aren't coming back in stock until the next issue, so make sure to check those out. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Definitely check out the cool stuff from Geecrack, V&M, and Z-Man. We got some cool stuff planned for you in the future here. We've got a bunch of iCast releases that we're excited to talk about. And guys, if you enjoyed it, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time, Lake Pro Tackle. See you guys.